Greetings. Welcome to Conversation with Tony Mobley. On Conversations with Tony Mobley today, I have a young man coming in from the UK, Mr. Leo Mindel. He is a streaming professional. He is also a person who has worked extensively with houses of worship. And we are so excited to have him here today. This is episode 20 of 2025 of Conversation with Tony Mobley. We are powered by Mimo Live. I want to thank the team behind Conversation with Tony Mobley for all of your hard work. You can watch this conversation on YouTube as well as conversationwithtonymobley.com. In the YouTube chat, there is a link to the Mukana chat. That is courtesy of Alex Lindsay in 090. Why do I ask you to check out that Mukana chat in YouTube? Because there is an opportunity for you to ask your questions of Leo in the Mukana chat. Not only can you ask him questions there, you can vote those questions up and down to ensure that Leo has a chance to answer your question for tonight. And we thank everyone for tuning in, and we are excited to have Mr. Leo Mindel come from the UK. It is early, early in the future in the UK, and he is with us here today. And thank you, Leo, so much for joining us today.
Tony, I think that's the first time I've been called a young man for a very long time. And thank you for that introduction, Tony. It's great to be here. It's absolutely brilliant to be here. This is one of the shows that I watch every week. It's something that I look forward to watching and following. And it's really good to be on the other side or in the camera for once on this show. So, and I'm looking forward to these super tough questions.
Well, I don't think that they'll be super tough. I think that you will handle them extremely well because these questions will be in your area of expertise. And so we're just going to get started right now with the very first question. Because you have not been on Conversation with Tony Mobley as an individual, you have been on as a panel member. We're going to ask you, who is Leo Mindel?
Thank you, Tony. We'll start with the easy ones. So, uh, I'm based in the UK, Richmond. For those that watch Ted Lasso, that's filmed right around the corner from here, so that's where I'm based. In the past, my background, I did electronics when I in university and growing up, and then I went into the world of IT, which I did for a number of years, and then I set up a company just before the millennium to help governing bodies and world federations to do their websites online. So I was involved heavily in, I think I did 5 Olympics. I may be wrong, I can't remember, and lots and lots of other things in sport. Of which I moved out of that. It was just coming up on 4 years ago that I left that business, that world, and I got involved just before COVID. I started getting involved in doing live events in the WordPress world, actually. I was involved in that side, and from there, things have changed and moved on. And there's lots of other parts to that story, which I'm sure we will cover.
Okay. I'm so happy for you to be here with us today. Please talk about your position as a streaming director.
It's a great title. It's one of those titles that means I think I'm close to making tea. I think that's basically what I can do. But yeah, what actually happened, and this is a familiar story to many people involved in this industry, is before COVID, people used to think that WebEx was the way to do things, or Google Meets. We used to do a lot of Google Meets, and the quality was poor. But the quality was poor. However, it was better than a phone call. So it was you had uplifted a phone call, so people were very happy with it. Along came the issues and the complexities that came with COVID, and I was asked to get involved with how to move and help people to connect online. And You needed a job title, and the one that I ended up with was called streaming director, and I think it was like
Okay.
that was the only one left. Um, because I set up a company with two friends. One, they are absolutely the brains behind a lot of what we do. They do all the live audio, they do the camera work, and so I was left with the how do you write the bits to go to make it all to come together, and that's how I ended up with the title of streaming director.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We have a question from Clark Lopez Waterman. Good to see you, Leo. Tell us about your travels.
It's a lot. It's really good to see. It was absolutely brilliant earlier in the show, just before the show started, being able to to connect with Talok and with other people in there, and Laura, people I've known online through this journey that I'm doing. Um, Traveling, yeah, I really like it, and I actually like meeting people face to face in that I've met during the period of being involved in office hours and involved in other things. So I've traveled all the way over to Cape Town and Matt Hasmuck, who has been on this show. I've met John Nicholson, who's been on this show. I've met and these are in real life. Ken, I've met quite a few times. Ken, who I know has been on the show more times than I've been on it. I've also I've traveled over, seen David Paskin, who runs another show, but has also been on this show. And to me, um, those connections have come about because of these shows and how we work online. But also, to to me, that sitting down and having a meal with somebody is, I feel it's an achievement. I feel it's something I want to do, is to have that opportunity. And sometime, and I know it's happening, Tony, I'm coming to Georgia.
All right. Looking forward to it. Um, can you talk about the different continents that you've been on?
Um, I was just saying before, since the last time I was on this show, I think I live in Europe, which I travel to. I've been to North America, South America, Asia, and Africa. So I've been to five, I think that's five continents since I was last on this show. And I travel. So my partner and I, that I've been with for a number of years, she and I like to travel extensively. We also, I don't know if I've covered this with you, Tony. We cycle, and we do bike rides, and we've got a trip. We went to Botswana a couple of years ago, and we're going to Kenya later this year. We're doing a charity bike ride for a charity called Norwood. So we'll be doing 500 kilometers over about 5 days. And looking forward
Wow,
to that.
that's fantastic. I'm gonna before we go to the next question, I'm going to share a little something with you in terms of in-person opportunities, and I'm just going to do this. So uh, this might surprise you, Leo, some of my meetups.
Go for it.
So
I know that one. That's a very short person. Yeah.
yeah, that the opposite of what you said, sure person, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
so
yeah.
he came to visit me in the hospital,
I know,
and
I know. I've heard the story. Amazing,
he was
amazing.
on his way to help produce the church's um, theater production in Macon, Georgia, and I was here in the Metro Atlanta area in the hospital. But before he went to Macon to help with the church production, he came to see me. And this is the theater that it was in. And do you know who that is? That's Mr.
Roscoe.
Roscoe
Yeah.
Jones. we had lunch. He came out of his way. He was traveling from Florida and came out of his way to come and see me, and we had lunch together. So, and this is part of the play that Clark was controlling and lighting and doing everything to make sure that it was well done. And this is after the play, and we had a meal, and this is the play again. And that's Liberty White at my house with my wife, and um, and this is another
Liberty
picture.
isn't a that that I mean, to capture a still picture of Liberty, you are looking at somebody who moves at a million miles. That
so,
lady is amazing. She is
so
absolutely a
this is three
force to
different.
be reckoned with.
Yes, this is three separate occasions that she was at my house. This picture shows my studio still in my living room. The other one it had moved, um, and this is another picture um,
Yeah.
uh, with her, and that's it. And I just wanted to share that with you. Um,
But I mean, I think the thing, so those people, and this is really my biggest thing about all of what we do here, Tony. The question in my head, and it's like a question back to you. These people pre-lockdown, I don't know if you knew any of these people. I don't know if you knew any of these
I
before.
did not.
So
I did not.
I did not. So does that mean that COVID was a bad thing or a good thing? For me, it's changed my life in a positive way. And these people that I've met are have enriched my life. And what I think, and this is why I'm involved in streaming, because I firmly believe that getting that level of contact with different people that you would have never, you would have walked past, you wouldn't have known that that they had, you had a connection, and then you meet them and you listen. Liberty is one of those people. She's amazing.
Absolutely.
Absolutely amazing lady that is just changing many, many people's lives. And it's just to watch from a distance and say, wow, what she
You know,
does,
it,
and this is
I
what it
feel
is.
I feel blessed, Leo. I'm going to be transparent
Yeah.
and say that. And we can talk a little bit about religion here on Conversation with Tony Mobley. And you know, as you said, you think about Roscoe Jones. Okay, he is an instructor at a university in California. Now retired, and he's now in Indiana. But the fact that he was on vacation, went out of his way to come and see me. Clyde Lopez Waterman not only helped us. This is a person who did lighting for Broadway. Comes to a little town, Macon, Georgia, not once but twice to do the lighting. Provided his 6K camera to record it. Um, Liberty White doing amazing things with young people and in the production world. It's as you say, I can't answer the question because there are some people who lost their lives during COVID. But the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is, had it not happened, um, and I think I shared this the other night on Extra Hours, I was saying that, I was able, part of the reason that I was a part of the office hours community was to help a small rural church be able to continue to fellowship and interact with one another because they were basically pushed out of their building because of COVID. And I was able to ask
Yeah.
all of these amazing questions and all of the interactions and the things that I've been able to do for them and their outreach. It's just amazing, and I'm just thankful I'm
Yeah.
just thankful to God. And I'm going to get back to the questions. Um,
Well, but before you
so,
get back to the questions, I've got my similar view of that, and I think this is a you segued to it perfectly for me, and that's why I'm jumping in here, Tony.
okay.
How I ended up getting involved in houses of worship and that element, and you just mentioned yours. So there were two key drivers for me. Approximately 10 years ago, yeah, around about 10. Yeah, it was about 10 years ago. My mum had leukemia, and she was in hospital, and my daughter, so I'm Jewish, my daughter was going to be singing at a service, and my mother obviously was sitting in hospital. She couldn't and see it. I snuck my phone in, and I had my phone on my knee, facing there, so I could record it, and my mum could see it. And unfortunately, my mum didn't. You don't survive what she had, but she was able to see her granddaughter singing, and it was a really important thing for her.
Absolutely.
And then around about the same time, a really good friend of mine, he was a policeman, and he was involved in an accident at work and was in hospital. And I would go in to see him, and he would say to me the biggest thing he wanted to be on a Sunday would be at his church. This is the time that he needed his church, and he's lying in a hospital bed, and he couldn't have that connection. Um, and I'm sitting here thinking, this just doesn't make sense to me. It's like, we've got the technology, this is, as I say, it's 10 years ago. So we're 2014, 2015. We've got the technology, but we are finding excuses and reasons to not use it. And I'm like, this doesn't really make sense. And I was trying to get involved in how to make that work. And in a way, and this is the funny thing, in a way, what happened with COVID is when COVID happened, I my synagogue was already streaming, but they were doing it really poorly. It was just a one camera stuck up there. It had a buzzy noise, all the sort of things that you'd expect. And I and a friend of mine, we rushed in on literally the week after. It was so funny. We took a video. We had our hands covered in gloves, but we had no masks on because nobody knew what you were supposed to do at the time. So we had gloves on and no masks. And we set up some cameras, and we set it up so that we could live stream. And the actual synagogue missed 1 week. We had 1 week out, and then we carried on from that point onwards. And it was the strangest thing was that we realized that there had been a whole part of the community, for personal reasons, we could say it, for medical reasons. In other words, they were the people who couldn't travel to the synagogue on a Saturday, people who had, I'm trying to think of the right term, but concerns about being in rooms with lots of people who had been left by the side. And suddenly that group of people were put back where they should have been a long time ago, and having that connection back with their community and with their religion. And I see this in a lot of religions, and I also see it a lot here. There are people who run the shows like this show that help you here, and yourself, Tony, who have, I'm going to say, are not as able as others and are able to reach out and connect. And their story, in my mind, is a massively important one. And, what you talk about, when I saw the pictures of you, Tony, when you said, this was the first time you'd been outside for a number of years, for a while, and then you broadcast your show, and I'm listening to the voice that I love. And this is being enabled by this technology. And you sit there and go, this is great. And it's just wonderful. And it's great with the people that you've got in your show. And I'm going to call one out. I'm just going to say this. Laura is an amazing lady, and I know that this technology was built for people like her to shine, and she really does. And I just wanted to put that to one side and say it.
I, I, I'm going to say that absolutely yes, you are right. But not only Laura, if you look at all of the individuals that are helping us, it's amazing. And I want to lift up Zachary Sorensen of Queensland, Australia. Normally, he is the technical director. He's the one that's cutting the show, and he's doing it from Australia. Absolutely amazing. Laura Thompson, Lilac Lopez Waterman. You know, Mickey McAture coming in from the Philippines, making sure, controlling stuff. uh, I see things moving around me sometimes when I'm in the show, and it's Mickey doing his thing. And so this is amazing. But just sort of piggyback on what you're saying, I am still not as mobile as I need to be, but I'm still able to experience the connection that I've been able to glean from the office hours community and the friends that I have made. And I have authentic friends that I've made even before those individuals that I shared actually being able to see them. I know that I have people that I care about and that care about me. And I just think it's absolutely amazing. And so it goes back into the question or comment that we have from Liberty White. What has been the biggest transformation when it comes to online programming for houses of worship?
That's a really interesting question. Um, and it's an evolving question. But I think the first thing is, so I'm going to use an analogy because I was in sport before. And one of the things that changed in sport a number of years ago in football is they changed the offside rule, and they changed it in a way that the keeper wasn't allowed to collect the ball from, hold the ball in his hand. This is soccer. If I haven't explained, I should have said that the keeper wasn't allowed to pick up the ball if it was passed back from a defender. And what ended up happening is overnight, you had a load of goalkeepers who had never ever learned to kick that couldn't, in one season, a load of professional goalkeepers suddenly found that they couldn't do the job that they were used to doing. Exactly the same has happened in houses of worship, where suddenly the way that the preacher or the way that the rabbi or whoever is there, they were used to dealing with an audience that was in front of them, and suddenly they were presented with a camera, and they had to look at that camera and they had to hold an audience that they couldn't see, and it changed the way they didn't. A lot of them had a lot of problems transitioning. And actually, what we've seen a lot of in the UK, and I'm sure it's similar in other places, we've seen a lot of clergy retire. They came out of lockdown and they had worked incredibly hard, and then they've retired because it just wasn't where they were before. But it has changed what they need to do and how they approach things. That's the negative. The positive is that when you have a certain voice and a certain way of speaking and a certain connection, you suddenly find that your audience that you were only, that was a geographic audience, where it was only linked to, you know, this community or 20-mile radius or whatever people could drive to on a Sunday. Suddenly your reach is much further. But the reach is much further not for the super churches, because they were always doing it anyway, but the reach is much further for those people who have a genuine, authentic message that can connect to people. And I think that is something I've seen. I've seen that you can get a genuine, authentic message that people want to see and that they can relate to, and seeing it throughout the world. And that's what I see. And I particularly see it, pushing this back to you, Tony. I see this in somebody like you, your voice and how you present and how you come across resonates. And I think this is the opportunity that it gives, is that people can hear that. And the second part, or the final part on it, that I think is really interesting, really, really super interesting. I had this conversation with my rabbi once. Every year we have our what we call our high holy days, our big set, services every year, and typically that's their big sermon. So there's that's the big one. And in the past, they would have these knockout sermons, and if you weren't in the room, you never ever heard them, and they were gone.
Mhm.
Now those sermons are recorded, and so you've got them. The first thing is a few rabbis went, I don't want it recorded because I make mistakes. It's like, well, actually, we all make mistakes, but how fabulous it is to look back at those in later and see them. And even things like this. This is why I think this show in particular has a long history, a long tail, because you'll be able to listen to more important people than me talk to you, Tony, who is much more important than me, and you'll be able to listen to it in the future and look back at it. And it's a great recording.
Well, let me just say I thank you for your support. And I just want to share just as a little bit, and I didn't mean to go into this, but based on the things that you've just shared, I think it's important for me to share this, particularly in the context of Liberty's question. So for the church that I'm working with, I do the multimedia stuff, but on the third Sunday of each month, that's my Sunday to actually speak. And so this past third Sunday, I spoke, and in my sermon, there was a portion where I was given a testimony, and the testimony was about my nurse coming to see me at home. And because at that time I was having all of the services come to my house. And so my nurse and I was having a conversation. And by that time, Clyde Lopez Waterman had come from North Carolina and moved all of my equipment, my lights, all my computers and everything into this room that I'm in right now, which I still had my hospital bed in the room. And so the nurse came to see me, and we got into what I had all this stuff for. What was all this stuff for? And I was telling her I was working with a church, and then she started telling me about her church. And she was talking about how the music was so amazing in the sanctuary at the church. But she was concerned about the fact that to her, when she would listen to it online, it didn't sound as good. And she said, but we're going to keep doing it. And this is the reason she said that they were going to keep doing it. She was talking about the fact that her pastor had mentioned that they were in Peachtree City, which for anybody who knows anything about Georgia is probably one of the more exclusive areas in the metro Atlanta, Georgia area on the south side of Atlanta. And so it's where most of the people that work at the airport, that's where they live. It's very nice, very expensive. And so they were renting a space in an office park. And she said that the pastor got up and said, we're tired of renting. It's time for us to have our own building. And that's all he said. And so a couple of weeks passed, and she said that the pastor got a phone call from a person who does not come to the church, but watches the church online. And what this person did was gave them the money to buy the building that they were in. So they were no longer renters, they were owners. Not only did he give them the money, and it was a lot of money, I'm not going to say how much it was, but I am going to tell you this. He gave them $100,000 over what they needed to buy the building. That, to me, is the power of online ministry, because that person did not come to the building. He watched online. I think that's an important lesson for all pastors. Not to say that you do online ministry so that you can glean something from it, but because you have an opportunity to outreach to people who, for whatever reason, may not come to the building. And that's what my
I
sermon
think
was
you,
about.
yeah, I think you've absolutely nailed that, Tony. The point is um, that there's reasons people don't come. I mean, the geographic is an easy answer. You know, I do a lot of stuff, as you probably know. I do a lot of stuff with Israel, and a lot of stuff in that environment. But that's a long way away from here. That's the geographic. But the simplest thing that you talk about buildings not having wheelchair access. You talk about buildings not having access for certain other reasons, but people completely ignore what you can say, what you can argue is non physical im, im, uh, impediments
Impediment.
that people don't see.
Yes.
You know, the hidden reasons. There are lots of people that don't want and can't and feel uncomfortable in that environment. And online worship has enabled that. And these people are, when you talk to them and you get them involved or communicate. I'm going to say communicate rather than talk because that's making an assumption they can, it can be via text, etc. You are reaching further. You are doing something that and it makes a huge difference. And then so what I ended up doing after lockdown started, and I was talking about how I set up on that environment, I got involved with Marty from this parish, Marty Atos, who runs Hybrid Ministries Tech Forum. So I was involved in panels on that. I also set up Synagogue Tech, which enabled a number of synagogues to get involved. I reached out and there was this guy called I can't remember what David used to call himself, the Torah Tech something, isn't it? And
Hmm.
and I found him and I said, join this. And oh, by the way, there's this thing called office hours. I'll put my hand up to say I introduced him, and I'll also put my hand up to say that he's exceeded far beyond what I can do. Far, far, far what I can do. It's amazing, amazing. And that's why I went out and met him when I was in Miami. Um, and I think it's that full circle thing. You know, you know that whole build it and they will come environment. You know, you do it. It is hard, Tony, because I think one of the problems that we've always suffered from. Um, I sit there and I was looking for some headphones with a microphone from my partner. She wants to do some, sound better on Zoom calls. Whenever you review them, everybody says, "Well, these sound great. These sound great. These sound great." And then you go, "Are you talking about the microphone or the headphones?" The headphones may sound great. People go, "I never ever have any complaints." It's like that's because nobody ever tells you sound rubbish. Nobody's ever said you sound really poor on a call. That's the first thing they tell you because they don't. We're particularly British. We're not used to being rude. We stay in our lane on that one. But the quality of the microphones that you were getting at the time and still are. I can't. These as a microphone are terrible, and they're the latest generation. You know, and it's when you can't hear people clearly, when the message is mixed, when you're struggling, it's creating those barriers. And it's relatively easy. There was on office hours about 2 weeks ago, there was, Alex was testing some relatively inexpensive microphones that he's putting in kits. And the quality of them, they're not as good as this, but they are 100 times better than earpods. That's what
Absolutely.
we've got to
Yeah,
get people to do.
absolutely. We have another question. What is the most surprising thing you have learned while away?
What is the most surprising thing?
And that's
Actually,
from
I'm going to
Quaylok
turn it.
Lopez Waterman.
So I'm going to turn it around. It's surprising. I'm a bit of a foodie, so I love my food. And my view of food is you cannot ever say that you enjoy Michelin star food, which I do, unless you've eaten at McDonald's. And actually, I had McDonald's tonight. You have to have gone from all of the extremes, otherwise you can't. And I love when I'm traveling to have local food, local produce. And it's amazing how different things are and how some things are not. I always find it quite hilarious. Everywhere you go, virtually in the world, a Big Mac tastes like a Big Mac. So, but if you don't have it, you can't say you've tried it, and you can't. I always find it. I find it's what I like about learning what a way is how some people see a barrier of travel. So, you say, "Oh, I'm gonna." A flight from me to Miami is 8 hours, 9 hours. Um, it's yeah. There's a value cost. I know that. I'm not trying to belittle that, but it's not that long. It's not that hard for me to endure. I appreciate that not everybody can. I'm not saying that, but it's like you just don't know what it's like until you tried it. And I think I am one of these people that feels that for everything in this world, I will always do the, I don't know if I don't like it until I try it, rather than saying I'm not trying it. I'll always do that. That's my view.
Okay. I do know that there is a difference between the McDonald's that you have and the McDonald's that we have in terms of the menu. And so,
Go on.
uh,
Tell me what you
well, it from I haven't been to Europe, but I have
Okay.
seen the menus, and while they have most of the things that we have, there is there are additional things that are on the menu that on the outside look like they're a lot healthier than what we get.
Yeah, there has been a big change in that. I mean, this is a strange way we were saying segue what McDonald's menus, but this evening my McDonald's we had a voucher. There you go, an American thing. We had a voucher that enabled us to have Big Macs and chips. So we ended up with a load of Big Macs for dinner tonight because it came through the post. It's similar. You can get similar stuff. I mean, the funny thing is, we've just are your Coke cans at the moment? Our Coke cans have just been changed to they've got the my mate is they've got names on all of our Coke cans at the moment, so we've just got that changed this couple of weeks. So I don't know if you're getting the same ones or if that's a global thing or just in the UK at the moment. But we've had that before with names. So this is the really weird thing about the world now is that while it is massive in certain ways, it is also familiarity in certain places you can go. I'd love to know what Mickey's Coke cans have currently got on them. So that will be an interesting question.
Maybe he'll put that in the chat. Um, we're going to talk again about your office hour member visits. So you talked a little bit about Hesmach and David Paskin, excuse me, Rabbi David Paskin,
Yeah.
and tell us tell us some more. You said so you and Ken Jordan have cycling in common.
We do. We do. And actually we lived um for a short period of time we've actually lived in the same roughly 10 miles apart. He's now in Ireland. I used to live further away from there. I moved closer to where he used to live, but um, we have okay. So we have cycling. There is a difference. Um, when I go in for things, I sort of go in and I get okay at it, but I go reasonable, but not all in. Ken is an amazing person, but when he dives into something, he doesn't stay in the shallow end of the pool for very long. Him and cycling, wow, you know, there was, I did a 70-kilometer ride a couple of weeks ago. That's all right, it's fine. That's about my limit. That's about my limit. That's when Ken was in his cycling thing. That's what he was doing before breakfast most mornings. It felt like he really is amazing, and I think you can see it in the detail and the quality. He came over here with his Apple. Sorry, I've forgotten what it's called. The glasses over the face thing. I've forgotten what it's called. It'll come to me in a minute.
Vision Pro?
His
Vision
Vision
Pro?
Pro. He brought his Vision Pro round here. It's like he got the first or the latest one, and we literally didn't have them in Europe, and somehow Ken's got one. He came round to show me, and it's like, he goes and you can't help but being sort of sucked in and infected in how, because the other thing about Ken, he makes it so simple because he shows you something that you would struggle with. And it's like when he was doing the AI stuff with you a couple of weeks ago, and he was talking you through it, and you're sitting there going, he's just giving you a PhD thesis on AI, and he's boiled it down to 20 minutes in your show, and he's showing you this thing that mere mortals will be sitting there scratching their heads trying to unwrap the packaging still, and he's like way ahead. And it's just amazing. It's just amazing. I've done some live events with him as well. He's just an amazing character, and again, it's the connections through shows like this that I've had the opportunity to meet him and enrich my life through it.
Yeah, I think he's an amazing individual. The fact that, he's now in Ireland, and each morning he's going to the ocean to swim in the ocean regardless to the temperature. And that's part of his exercise now. So I mean, you talk about, I I don't know if I want to swim in the ocean if the weather was warm, but he was
But this
talking
is
about how he said you get used to it. And
yeah. Okay, so this is something about humans that I think comes to the bottom to the everything that we do is we have always, as a species, gone, what is over the other side of that mountain? What is there? Or how do we push ourselves a bit further? To the ultimate, you can argue, is that we kept looking up at the moon and going, well, let's go there. I mean, my God, we're never satisfied in one way. So you've got that level of inquisitiveness and how do we push ourselves? And I think it's an amazing thing. It's an amazing drive that we have. And I think this is the whole point. We're doing these things. We're pushing in barriers. I'm not saying that we do everything right or wrong, and I'm not saying that this show is the answer to everything. I'm just saying that we push the barrier, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes the things we do on these shows work, sometimes it doesn't. I noticed the opening today that Taloka's tightened up the opening of this show. It's great, and they're small changes sometimes. Sometimes they're really big changes, and I think that's when you've got someone like Ken who he has that drive, and it's an amazing drive to go to where and to take things further. And I think that's why I do what I do on these things, and that's why I enjoy those conversations. These conversations, and also the conversations on office hours as well, on the Daily Show. It's just how to push things forward, and I think it's a great feeling to feel like you're experiencing something.
absolutely, absolutely. Claudette Lopez Waterman is back again. how did you get involved in live streaming?
I got involved in live streaming through the WordPress world. So, as I mentioned before, I was building websites for governing bodies and federations in sport. And we transitioned over to WordPress in, I'm going to say 2010, 2000, something like that, somewhere around that period. And I would go to the meetups, and again, it was I would be sitting in the room hearing people who are far cleverer than me talking about how to do various different things with WordPress. And if you weren't in the room, you missed it. And then there would be the word camps and the meetups, and I was like, well, can we stream some of these? Can we help? And some of them were, and I worked with somebody I met through that. We started doing um, some events. Funny enough, we ended up. This is in 2000. I'm going to say 2017, 18. We needed some software to do it on our PCs, and we found on Macs. We had Ecamm. We approached the guys at Ecamm and said, "Can you help us? We've got these WordCamp things." And they went. I actually sat down with the twins and got a copy of Ecamm and have been using it since, I'm going to say 2018. It may have been earlier, I can't
Wow.
remember. Then we started using Restream. We started using StreamYard. This is all pre lockdown. I was using all these things, and it was quite amazing actually. It was really great. It's like you were everything was a Logitech camera, and it's just nothing. It's all the basics early on stuff, and it was really like being in the ham radio world of something and just learning stuff that nobody knew what they were doing. I don't think we knew what we were doing. We just, when people said, "Do you know how to do it?" we would just like nod and then go, "Yeah, yeah, we'll work out. We'll work out. We'll see if we can make it happen." And we were very disruptive and did it.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. What does Shock Audio Limited actually do?
So that Shock AV, what we do is we help. We set up the equipment at synagogues, help them get involved in what they're doing, explain it, make it so that we realize that there is a lot of businesses doing it for churches, and they're great at it. And what we decided that we would do it in our area, our field, which is synagogues. The difference being is that we know which is our important days of the week, and they know which is their important days of the week. And there is some crossover, but it really works best if you know your customers and how you deal with it. We also have done a lot of events. We work heavily with a charity here, which is the Anne Frank Trust. The Anne Frank Trust will talk about big day, the days like I'll give you a different. There's all the different days every year. For example, I'm just trying to think of some. So there's Book Week where people will talk about books, and get authors talking to schools. There's also days around gay rights and weeks that come for that, and other weeks. There's Black Lives Week. I can't remember what it's called, and all of these things we will put on live events and stream them into schools. The advantage being that we will get, say, 10,000 kids being able to watch a show and interact with that show, with a personality that they can relate to. And so that's really, really, really exciting, really interesting, and a really good way of
Wow.
technology.
Yes, that's very cool. Very cool. Thank you so much for sharing that. Um, so, what's next for Leo Mindel?
What's next? This is a really,
Besides going to
what's next? Where do I
besides
go?
going to bed.
Besides going to bed, well, the funny thing is, it's so late. Tony, I've already brushed my teeth. It's that late in the daytime. I've already done that. Um, so to me, I think the big thing for me is to not be scared about what's coming next on this. Um, I realized, there's a lot of conversations that people have at the moment. They talk about AI in a way of concern and confusion, which is really what we saw about streaming, and what we saw about other technology in the past. And the reality with all these things is how we move forward, and we keep moving forward in using technology and how we can harness it. As long as you look at technology as an enabler for you to have a conversation and a communication with people, then you should see the technology to do that rather than seeing the technology as the driver. So the best technology in my mind is the technology that you never see, the technology you never feel that there's a technology involved in it. So good streaming is a good example when you don't hear or think about well, they don't sound right, or they don't look right, or they don't do this right. That's to me is how technology should be. Um, we've had it's amazing. People talk about using AI when they talk about it for written words, and they sit there and go, "Oh, you can get ChatGPT to rewrite your sentence." It's like, hold on a minute. You've had a spell checker in Word for coming on 30 years, I'm going to guess by now.
Yeah.
You've had it grammatically fixing with a little green squiggly underneath, the red squiggly for spelling and the green squiggly for grammatic. That grammatic one's been in there quite a long time. So it's not that you haven't had it. It's prompting you how to make the sentence better. But if you can't write the sentence, it's not really going to help you. And actually, I look at the same with ChatGPT. I look at it and how we use it in the setup and the process of certain things, how to make things better and easier. I talked earlier about disabilities and how you enable people to be able to communicate. I was loving your conversation last week and how you bring stuff together so that, that if it's text across the bottom of the screen so you've got closed captioning that's real time, and how you deal with that and how you get that better. That's what I see is coming next. I see us enabling better communications, better ways of doing things, better as in less barriers. I think that's the important thing. And I think that's something, particularly, I look at some manufacturers, and a good example of this one is Apple. They remove the barrier to doing something. They don't make it complex. They don't make it so you have to sit there with a command line to type everything in. They make it so that those barriers are out. And I see that as happening. I'd love to see, to me, in cameras, I'd love to see automatic color correction and color balancing being done by the camera rather than you having to do it. I'd love to see the sound levels getting better and better so that they are leveled off, and processed and done. These are the things, why I'm in a way I'm old school. When I did my electronic apprenticeship, I was at the age when we were 17. So in the UK, you can learn you can't start driving till you're 17. And I started in my apprenticeship at age 16. So as we all went over to 17, we were all getting cars. We're all technical people, and we're all buying cars and doing whatever that we need to do to keep them on the road. Learning about things that now, thank God, don't exist, like points and dwell angles and setting up, doing all the timing and all that. Thankfully, it's all gone. Doesn't mean to say I don't drive. Doesn't mean to say I don't enjoy driving. It's just that all of that technology that was really needed somebody has gone, and the reliability and the move of cars has gone. And I see that with this. I see that we should be getting better and better levels of communication through cameras that deal with the stuff that you don't really need to have somebody to do. And that's what I want to see. And I want to see Tony buy more stuff.
Well, it's quite a bit here, but in all transparency, I have a lot of gifts that were donated to me, and my
No,
wife
no.
lets me
Yeah,
spend a little bit of money too.
I don't see. To me, Tony, I always think there there is ways to there is ways to thank people for what they do. I always think, I always look at it. There are two types of people in this world. There's radiators and drains. You know, there are people who suck stuff away from you who are a drain, and there are people who give you heat and warmth who are radiators and provide stuff. You 100% are a radiator. And the thing is that people I know who know you will go, when you have a radiator like you, Tony, there isn't a barrier to people wanting to help. And if help is the right word or gifts are the feel, it's not. It's like people are saying thank you for what you're doing. And I think this conversation is, not me today, but your other conversations are ones that are really, you know, they're thoughtful and they make you think. And I'm appreciative of them.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I want to say thank you so much for your support. I thought I'd make you laugh um, prior to prior to our conversation this evening, maybe about, I'm going to say about maybe 30, 40 minutes before our conversation, I decided to ask ChatGPT um, who Leo Mindel is. And so this is the response that I got. Leo Mindel is a UK based expert in live streaming and digital media production with a strong background in sports technology, WordPress development, career highlights. Founder of Stoic in
Sotic.
2002,
Sotic, yeah. Yep.
Leo co founded Sotic, a multi award winning digital sports agency that delivers large scale websites and digital platforms, major sports organizations. Streaming director at Shock Audio Visual, Leo currently serves as the streaming director at Shock AV, where he specializes in delivering high quality live streaming solutions. He has been an active member of the WordPress community, contributing to events like WordCamp London 2019, where he has been responsible for live streaming plans. Live streaming for religious services, Leo has advised synagogues on setting up live streaming for services and produced numerous live events for Jewish organizations. Public engagement. Leo has shared his expertise on various platforms, including podcasts, live shows, discussion strategies for successful remote communication and live streaming production. Online presence, Leo Mindel, um, Clubhouse, Facebook. Leo is recognized for his contributions for live streaming technology, digital media, particularly within the sports and religious sectors in the UK. So I thought that maybe you get a laugh out of that. I don't know
I did.
how much of how was that how was the AI able to glean all of that information in a few seconds just by putting in your information. And so I said, well, I think this would tickle you a little bit, so I wanted to do that. Um, and we're
I
now
think it's
down to
good.
our I, as I was listening to it, I was thinking that maybe I need to copy it and paste it in your Discord so that you could maybe look
Yeah,
at it
I
and
think
see.
it's one of those things where I was thinking, Tony, you could have cut this call down to You could have just read that out, and I never needed to come on.
I thought it was pretty good. And so we're down to
It's
our
pretty
last
good.
question. You're speaking to the world, and what do you want the world to know?
Um, what do I want the world to know personally at the moment? What
Yes.
I want the world to
Yes.
know is that 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 the most important discussion should, in my mind, long term be is who's got the better hummus, and the other arguments should be put aside, because that to me is the most important thing at the moment. I have got a lot of friends in both sides of a particularly horrible argument that's happening in around the world. In fact, I've got friends in lots of arguments that are happening around the world. And I just wish we could get back to having discussions about whose hummus tastes better, or as Liberty White says, does KFC taste better in America or in Jamaica? If we can have those as our main talking points, then I think that would make up my life a lot nicer.
Thank you, Leo Mindel. Conversation with Tony Mobley is produced by Value Audiovisual Professionals who meet daily on Office Hours Global, hosted by Alex Lindsay. We want to say thank you to Mimo Live. We have conversations with real people. Stay tuned for new episodes and great conversations on Conversation with Tony Mobley. We want to thank everyone for the 100 plus episodes of Conversation with Tony Mobley. And when you have time, we ask that you go back and look at some of those conversations, and hopefully you will find something that will be helpful to you. We want to thank Leo Mindel again for being a part of our conversation today, and for doing the work you do, and for being the person who you are. Next week, we're going to have Mr. Omar Gahan, and I hope that I'm pronouncing it right. And if I'm not pronouncing it right, I will have it right by next week. He is a cinematic commercial video producer, live sports events production, and creator of the Couch Surfing Show. He is also a member of the Office Hours community who was walking around NAB with a backpack and was broadcasting from NAB. So we ask that you come and participate in this conversation next week and ask your questions. If you like Conversation with Tony Mobley, we ask that you like and subscribe. I'm going to go ahead and announce this. We are stuck around 660 subscribers. I'm going to ask that you reach out to your family members and friends if you like Conversation with Tony Mobley, and ask them to like and subscribe. We want to get to 1,000 subscribers by the end of 2025. And so I'm asking for your help. Also, if you would like to donate to Conversation with Tony Mobley, we ask to go to our website. There you will find lots of ways to support us. You can support us by one-time gift, or you can support us monthly. And we would appreciate anything that you would like to do in terms of supporting Conversation with Tony Mobley. We ask that you take care. God bless. See you soon.